We were texting back and forth about this, so we should just talk about this now so we don't forget. We were talking about like maybe we should talk about like the archetypes, different archetypes of entrepreneurs, because like there could be, there could be somebody like there's undoubtedly a young Daniel Ek out there, right? We just know that that's going to happen. There's this great thing. I'm slightly obsessed with Michael Jordan. He's the lock screen on my phone. He's my contact card. So when people like, they start texting me, it's like Michael Jordan with his eyes like this, like I'm kind of setting the tone. And he said this great thing because, at the end of his career is the rise of Kobe Bryant. And everybody's towards the end of his career, they were like obsessed. Like, oh, Tracy McGrady is going to be the next Michael Jordan. And this guy's going to be the next Michael Jordan. This guy's the next Michael Jordan. And he's like, you don't have to worry about finding the next Michael Jordan. He goes, first of all, you didn't find me. I just happened to come along. And that will happen again. You don't have to find the next person. They will come along. And I always say they will reveal themselves. So I do think this is fascinating, and no one else talks about this. Again, the weird thing about talking to you, and I don't mean that in a pejorative, it's like you just say stuff that no one else says. And then I'm like, why don't more people understand, like know about Daniel's very unique ideas? Like no one's concerned about the archetypes. Everybody's like, oh, we just have to be like Steve Jobs. You just have to be like Elon. And your point is like, no, there's like multiple different archetypes. Obviously, like I've studied this maybe more than anybody else in the world. And it's very clear that there are. And yet they're all kind of like narrowly focused on this is the one path. And me and you went over this back and forth before. It's just like, it's so ridiculous to say like this is the way founders should run their company, because you said it back in 2021 in that series and Spotify. We've had conversations like this. This is something I always say. It's like, it's tied to the personality of the founder.
100%.
Like the advice is fucking useless unless it's tied to who you are as a person.
100%.
Spotify is a reflection of you. 100%. Now, I do want to talk also about this other great idea that you gave me. And then now I heard Jeff Bezos echo recently about the fact that there's similarities between like the way your child develops and the way a company develops. That was very fascinating. But where are you like, explain why you would even want to broach the subject of like talking more about the different founder archetypes?
Well, I think, again, as a young entrepreneur myself, I went through the book like so many of us by becoming enamored by an entrepreneur and looking up to them in many cases because they had traits that I didn't have. And so we read all these stories, whether it's biographies or articles about how they manage their company and how they live their lives and the routines that they have. And certainly in my case, like, I certainly tried to mimic Steve Jobs. I certainly tried to mimic Bezos and Gates and all of the great ones, the very charismatic ones like Howard Schultz of Starbucks. And, I've learned from all of them. And in a way, I've tried to imitate them, right? Because I've thought that they were so great at what they do. But every single time I've walked away being disillusioned because I realized, obviously, that it didn't work for me. And so this sort of idea of this archetype is like, I bet you that there's plenty of entrepreneurs out there that read about currently, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or Jensen or any of these things, and they're like, that's not me, so I guess I'm not as good as them. And I can't do what they're doing, so clearly I don't have it in me. I think you were spot on when you said it's like the hardest single thing really for a founder and an entrepreneur in a much different way, I think, than a normal person, but I think every normal person goes through this, is finding yourself.
That's literally what I just wrote down. So I don't want, again, this is more of a conversation than an interview, because I'm a terrible interviewer and I love to talk.
Yeah, sure.
I do a monologue show, for God's sake. But I had this theory too, because it's obvious in the books. Like there's this like myth, it's like of like the genius young entrepreneur. And if you go and read all the biographies, they weren't like laying about doing nothing when they were younger. But it's very clear, if you look at all of them, Steve Jobs, Enzo Ferrari, Akio Morita, Sam Walton, Estee Lauder, Coco Chanel, Edwin Land, they do their best work when they're much older. And so I thought a lot about that. I'm like, dang, this is like a reoccurring theme over and over again. Some cases they're in their 40s, 50 years old, and they're at the top of their game. And then I was wondering, like, what is this? Okay, well, obviously, like, it is some skill sets, so you can like practice more. You have more experience, so then you can make better decisions. You have a better network. You have resources. You have all that. But one thing that I believe that I cannot prove, but I believe with every bone in my body, it's like, because they knew themselves much more. Like, think about the way you know yourself in your early 40s than you did when you were 23.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we thought when we were 23, you don't know anything.
No.
Even the most brilliant 23-year-old does not know themselves.
No.
You need that comes through time and experience.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no. This is something I learned from Michael Dell's autobiography, which was excellent. I used to say it's like they build a company that's authentic to them.
Yeah, 100%.
The way he says is like they build a company that's natural to them.
Right.
And you can't build a company that's natural to you
right.
if you don't know who you are.
100%.
And so I have this belief that's like, and I think like your accomplishments are freaking crazy. And I know you like to downplay them, and it's just because you're very polite and everything else. I was watching this funny interview with you, and they mentioned something like, you're the most successful person to ever come out of Scandinavia. And your words were very polite, but your face, it's like somebody poked you. You're like, oh, I don't want to be like described that way. But your response was like, I know that face. I know exactly what he said. But this idea that you are the sum of like your accumulated experiences, right? That is one form of education. But the form of education is like, I know I went to your house, I rummaged through your library, maybe kind of rudely, but I loved how you're obsessed with history and philosophy too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is a person he's curious about the external world, but he also wants to know like who he is, what's important to him.
Oh, yeah.
And then building a business and like an apparatus around that. So I just wanted to get that out because you mentioned something like, I don't think I should probably talk about it more frequently, but something I definitely believe is like, you're going to get better at entrepreneurship when you get better at knowing who you are and what you actually want to do.
100%. As you say, it's like, I think the game I'm playing now is just being the best version of myself. And the best version of myself is one that will have even more impact than the one that I had before, because it will be even more true to who I am.
So what is your archetype? I mean, do you even know?
No, I don't know, which is why I was asking you, because I figured who's the person in the world that probably has a better idea of like all the different archetypes. Because I can still learn how to like, do the game better, if that makes sense.
I would say there's a very interesting idea, and that I've noticed, obviously, like there's this maxim I say over and over again that all of history's greatest entrepreneurs study history's greatest entrepreneurs. And if you make a podcast on that, you get to meet the living versions of that now. And what I'm struck by, and I'm like this myself, I have all kinds of blind spots, which you like picked away the first time we had dinner, and you're just like, you're doing this wrong. And you were very polite, but you're just like, you're lying to yourself. You're not like, you're obsessed with this, and you're like fighting with the hand behind the back. But I'm so amazed. It's exactly what you said. It's like, it's almost like they need a mirror. So there's another great idea that I've seen a few times. One of the truly novel idea. It's this idea of hiring a paid critic. So Sony is making, audio equipment. It's like in the 50s. This is like, and they're very primitive devices. And what they realized was they hired a young vocal arts student, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Naria Oga or something like that. And the reason they did that is because he was a fan of early Sony products, but he also had very fine, refined taste and everything else.
Great.
And so he would just light them up about, he's like, I'm a big fan of Sony, but your products aren't good enough. You have all these deficiencies. And Akio, being the genius that he was, he goes, we hired him as a paid critic. Right. His job was to attack the deficiencies in our product because like, we don't even see them. Yeah. And the paid critic, his point was that, hey, if you're a ballet dancer, you have a mirror. Right? Your mirror 100%. Tells you whether what you're doing right, what you can fix, like what you need to do. He's like, I'm your oral mirror. Yep. And then fast forward to when the book is published in like 1986, that paid critic is now the president of Sony. And I feel I'm this way. It's like we need a mirror. Yeah. And I think what I'm curious about with you is like, I remember I just had dinner with Mike Ovitz. And, I think his autobiography is one of the best entrepreneur autobiographies ever written because he tells you about the bad shit. The fact that he didn't like who he was. He was depressed. He was doing this, making bad decisions based on the opinions of other people, which entrepreneurs cannot do. Yeah. And I was struck by like the fact that he didn't know himself at, 25 or I think he was 27 when he started CA. Sure as hell knows himself as like almost an 80-year-old man. But I asked him about, he's had some people I know have been friends with him for 25 years. And I was just like, what do you think has enabled you to maintain that relationship? And he said, he tells me the truth. Yeah. And he's like, you get into my position where, he's famous, he's wealthy. Most of the people that he interacts with are on his staff. Yeah. And he's like, it's very dangerous And he said, he's like, there's not many people in my life that tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Who tells you the truth?
Many people, which is the good news for me. It starts with my family, my mom. My mom is the most normal person you would be. She's proud of my accomplishments, but in sort of the standoffish way. She couldn't care anything about the impact of it. It is more like that I've overcome obstacles for myself that she knows matters to me. So oftentimes,
that's great though.
Yeah, and so oftentimes, like when I may bring an issue home, because she doesn't really know what's going on in the business world and she doesn't really care. She kind of like gives me this mirror back where most of life actually doesn't revolve around technology or the business world, etc. It's like, this is the life. So that's a great one. I have a very dear friend, Jack, who very similarly plays that part in my life. He's the most realist person there is. My wife is another one. Gustav that you met is another person. He will tell me the truth even when I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I've been incredibly fortunate that like many of the people I just talked about are people that have been around me for 20 years. My mom, obviously, my entire life, but many of these people have been around for a very, very long time.